Shortly after becoming chairman and CEO of GE in 1981, Jack Welch read a letter in Fortune magazine written by Kevin Peppard, business development director of Bendix Heavy Vehicle Systems. Bungay quotes the letter in full, but here are some outtakes. Through your excellent series on the current practice of strategic planning runs a common thread: the endless quest by managers for a paint-by-numbers approach which would automatically give them answers, yet they continually fail in that pursuit. I am struck by the parallel to military strategists. Before the French Revolution, generals had seen military strategy as a matter of geometry, with precise rules to observe. Precepts had abounded. Then Napoleon disproved all the maxims. Detailed planning necessarily failed due to the inevitable frictions encountered, chance events, imperfections in execution, and the independent will of the opposition. Instead, the human elements were paramount: leadership, morale, and the almost instinctive savvy of the best generals. Business and war may differ in objectives and codes of conduct, but both involve facing the independent will of other parties. Any cookbook approach is powerless to cope with the independent will or with the unfolding situations of the real world. From mission command to directed opportunism. Management is not a science but a practical art. Practicing it skillfully means applying general principles in a specific context. Bungay calls mission command and business-directed opportunism. This approach constitutes a system, and enacting it involves going around a loop. It abandons the linear model of developing a strategic plan and then implementing it. Instead, there is a cycle of thinking and doing. The horizon within which actions are planned is limited, the effects of the actions are observed and reflected upon, and new actions are initiated. Thus, the thinking-doing loop becomes a learning-adapting loop. An organization that behaves in this way will act rapidly and keep adjusting what it does. Therefore, the plan and implement model of strategy becomes a do and adapt model. Implementing directed opportunism. The trick is to make decisions that are directionally correct and to maintain a bias for action. Intent. Clear expression of intent is essential. What is the overall objective, why it is important, and what are the priorities? In business, intent should be communicated in such a way that it makes sense to every level of the organization. It's not a set of detailed instructions, but a clear statement of the desired end state. Environment. Recognize the real environment in which the organization operates. This includes not only the external competitive landscape, but also the internal capabilities and constraints. It's vital to understand that the environment is dynamic and can change rapidly. Mission. Assign clear missions to different parts of the organization. Each mission should contribute to the overall intent but should be flexible enough to allow for adaptation based on local conditions and opportunities. Delegation pushes decision-making authority down to the lowest possible level. This empowers individuals and teams to act quickly and responsively, making use of their unique understanding of their specific context. Feedback loop. Establish a robust feedback loop to monitor the results of actions and make necessary adjustments. This loop should be continuous, with regular check-ins and adjustments as needed. Learning. Encourage a culture of learning and adaptation. Mistakes should be viewed as learning opportunities rather than failures. This promotes innovation and continuous improvement. Leadership at all levels should model the behaviors and mindset of directed opportunism. Leaders should provide clear direction, support their teams, and be willing to adjust plans as necessary based on feedback and changing circumstances. By implementing directed opportunism, organizations can become more adaptable, resilient, and capable of navigating the complexities and uncertainties of the modern business landscape. This approach aligns the organization's strategy with its execution, fostering a culture of initiative, creativity, and continuous learning. Part 6. Execution. Complexity is the most insidious enemy of execution. When the environment is complex, there is a temptation to mirror that complexity internally. If the environment is fast-changing, the temptation is to match its pace internally. However, for an organization to cope effectively, it needs to create as much internal predictability as possible and simplify its operations. Strategy briefing and back briefing. A typical list of managerial objectives for a year might include: increase revenue by 8%, raise average net margin to 15%, open a new office, reduce costs by 5%, Hire 5 new salespeople, increase employee satisfaction, complete negotiations on a long-term contract, introduce a new credit control system. Using the concepts of strategy briefing, an initial review of this list might categorize tasks as follows. Increase revenue by 8%, potential main intent. Raise average net margin to 15%, potential main intent. Open a new office, implied task supporting, delegate. Reduce costs by 5%, implied task supporting. Hire 5 new salespeople, implied task supporting, delegate. Increase employee satisfaction, an outcome, possible metric. Complete negotiations on a long-term contract, implied task supporting. Introduce a new credit control system, separate task, delegate. An essential aspect of unity of effort is clarity and simplicity. Creating alignment around a strategy depends on the quality and precision of communication, not its volume. For something to be clear, it must first be made simple. What is not simple cannot be made clear. Back briefing. In the back brief, 3 things occur. The unit being briefed checks its understanding of the direction it has received. The superior gains clarity about the implications of their directions, and may revise them as a result. It ensures alignment across the organization, both vertically and horizontally. If everyone back briefs together, the results can be checked for gaps, overlaps, and coherence, followed by necessary adjustments. It is impractical and inefficient for someone to think through all the implications of their directives 2 levels below them. Through this process, senior leaders grasp what the organization will do based on their directives. It's normal for initial attempts to be slightly off target, and strategy briefs may require revision. Changing organizational behavior. To instigate change within an organization, consider the following stages. What is said is not yet heard. What is heard is not yet understood. What is understood is not yet believed. What is believed is not yet advocated. What is advocated is not yet acted on. What is acted on is not yet completed. Leaders often focus on the first step and assume their work is done once it's achieved, but in reality, their work has just begun. Experience shows that understanding the immediate intention 1 level up is insufficient for full alignment if things change. Understanding the intention 2 levels up is more effective, enabling individuals to anticipate their superiors' desires based on current knowledge. Recap of briefing and back briefing. People at all levels may need to exercise independent judgment. This can only happen if the organization has prepared them with the necessary information, which can be formulated as a statement of intent. This statement distills the strategy for everyone and can be broken down for briefing each level. A briefing should cover the higher intent up to 2 levels up, the tasks implied for the unit concerned, the unit's main effort, the unit's freedoms and constraints. A structured approach to briefing aligns the organization both vertically and horizontally. The entire organization can be aligned if briefing is done in a cascade, with each level adding specificity to tasks implied by the higher intent. This process is followed by back briefing, which checks mutual understanding, allows for adjustments, and helps align functions. A briefing cascade will only work if the organizational structure reflects the task structure implied by the strategy. If it conflicts with the strategy, the structure should be changed first. An appropriate hierarchy with entities accountable for critical tasks is essential, led by people skilled enough to make autonomous decisions. Part 7. Building the organization. The issue comes down to people. They are both the problem and the solution. Nothing happens unless key people want it to, and if the top team does not fully support the strategy, it is doomed. Conflicts between strategy and personal convictions must be addressed. People's convictions often correlate with their interests, largely determined by structure and compensation. Both must be examined to remove conflicts. There are many reasons for adopting a particular organizational structure, including strategy, availability of people, the need to provide platforms, emphasizing certain aspects, and protecting the culture of different business units. Key questions for organizational structure. Can we identify entities accountable for executing key strategy elements with controls to measure performance? Are the leaders skilled and experienced enough to direct their units semi-autonomously, and are they committed to the strategy? Is there an appropriate hierarchy, and does each level have the decision rights needed to play its part? Hierarchy allows decisions on behalf of many, enabling cohesive and simultaneous collective actions. Too much hierarchy leads to unclear roles, duplicated efforts, slow decision-making, and increased costs. Too little hierarchy results in fragmented efforts, optimized local interests, and lost cohesion. An effective hierarchy encompasses appropriate decision rights and responsibilities, enabling timely action by knowledgeable individuals. For example, central marketing may set prices, regions allocate budgets, countries decide on distribution channels, and local sales target customers. If local sales report directly to the center, it can result in rigidity or chaos. To take action, individuals need to understand the overall intent and break down their tasks, assigning and communicating them back up. This process, known as backbriefing, is crucial yet rare in practice. Hiring the right people. Von Moltke needed to recruit and develop the right people, focusing not on individual geniuses but on a group with the right talent in the right positions. The War Academy acted as a rigorous selection mechanism and trained officers to make similar judgments and share a common doctrine. Developing people. Organizations should focus on developing a critical group of upper-middle management who can make strategic decisions. Training should be practical, starting with actual situations, and workshops should support strategy development. Drivers of behavior. Good briefing and backbriefing can align the organization and flush out incongruities. It forces reflection on whether individuals are willing to undertake assigned tasks. KPIs and metrics. Metrics are valuable for providing information but can become an end in themselves if not linked to the overall strategy. Metrics should be used carefully, ensuring they do not overshadow what really matters. Command involves setting direction, while control involves monitoring and reporting performance. A scorecard is just one source of information. Direct observation is also crucial. In the end, it is behavior that counts. Closing knowledge and alignment gaps helps gain traction, focus effort, and deliver a strategy. However, unexpected events will occur, and people's responses will be critical. Metrics provide information, understanding can impart wisdom, and only people can take the right action. Part 8. Strategy, Operations, and Tactics. Routine tasks, such as forming up a column of march or deploying a skirmishing line, were standardized, and everyone was trained in how to do them. Today they include actions like forming a roadblock and are called Standard Operating Procedures, or SOPs. SOPs are very useful because they create uniformity and predictability where it has high value. They enhance efficiency by enabling tasks to be carried out quickly with little supervision. The three levels of strategy, operations, and tactics naturally correspond to organizational levels. Strategy is about winning wars and involves entire armies. Operations is about winning campaigns and involves corps and divisions. Tactics is about winning battles and involves brigades, battalions, and companies. In a business context, we might say, strategy involves business units, operations involve departments and functions, tactics involve subunits, whether in support roles or with direct customer contact. Three-level thinking helps us understand the legacy of scientific management. Taylor's insights endure, focusing on efficiency, which no business can afford to overlook. Taylor's error was universalizing his approach and applying it to all business activities instead of restricting it to tactics. This created problems for businesses trying to follow his edicts 50 years later when the world had changed. The solution to this problem had been worked out 50 years before Taylor, but he was unaware of it. Leading and managing. Managing involves understanding objectives, solving problems to achieve them, and creating processes to organize others' work efficiently. Good management maximizes the use of resources, including money and people. Leading is a moral and emotional human activity. Leaders motivate and, if possible, inspire followers to go in the required direction and perform their tasks better than they would have without the leader. Leaders must balance their attention between defining and achieving their group's specific task, building and maintaining the team, and meeting the needs of and developing the individuals within the team. Some inspiring leaders are poor managers, some brilliant commanders are ineffectual leaders, and some efficient managers can neither command nor lead. In most organizations, all three skill sets are equally important. Consequently, each person must be aware of what mode they are primarily operating in at any point in time, and organizations must be careful in selecting their commanders. Executives who master the disciplines of formulating and giving good direction can explain to people what they must achieve and why, making them ready to act. By mastering management, they can position people to act, and by leading effectively, they can sustain people's willingness to continue until the job is done. Conclusion. Leading-edge business thinker Philip Evans has pointed out that organizations like Linux and Toyota are self-organizing networks where the overall intent is shared without being explicitly laid down. Linux has no single leader. Self-organizing networks exhibit characteristics of directed opportunism, many people making independent decisions based on a shared intent and high mutual trust. The strong connection between the top and bottom of a hierarchy created by a briefing cascade is replaced by a strong network with widely dispersed knowledge and myriad dense interconnections. This may not solve everyone's problems, nor is it practical for most organizations to transform into self-organizing networks overnight. However, it reinforces the value of the compass heading I have been advocating. As I observed at the outset, what I am advocating is common sense, but common sense is not so common in practice. Stephen Bungay. Winston Churchill is said to have observed, "Most people, sometime in their lives, stumble across truth, and most jump up, brush themselves off, and hurry on about their business as if nothing had happened." Bungay's summary of the book in key points. We are finite beings with limited knowledge and independent wills. The business environment is unpredictable and uncertain, so we should expect the unexpected and not plan beyond foreseeable circumstances. Within the constraints of our limited knowledge, we should strive to identify the essentials of a situation and make choices about what is most important to achieve. To enable effective action, we must ensure people understand what they are to achieve and why. They should then explain what they plan to do as a result, define the implied tasks, and check back with us. They should assign the tasks they have defined to individuals who are accountable for achieving them and specify boundaries within which they are free to act. Everyone must have the skills and resources to do what is needed and the space to take independent decisions and actions when the unexpected occurs, as it inevitably will. As the situation changes, everyone should adapt their actions according to their best judgment to achieve the intended outcomes. People will only show the required level of initiative if they believe the organization will support them. What has not been made simple cannot be made clear, and what is not clear will not get done. Thanks for watching. Subscribe.